All right. Well, my message this morning is about faith, and it's titled, Open the Eyes of Your Heart. Well, I was just a little girl the first time I heard the Bible quote from Matthew 17:20 that says, you only need faith the size of a mustard seed. Now, inside this piece of tape is a mustard seed. And some of you might not even be able to see the seed from where you're sitting. But the Bible says this is all the faith we need. Now, God gives us everything in abundance, and this is all the faith we need? Makes you kind of wonder, doesn't it? But today we're going to explore faith, and we're going to look at some questions about faith, how we measure faith. Do we measure it by the size of a mustard seed? And how we can open the eyes of our heart to faith. And by the end of our time together, I hope to convey the message of, go, your faith has healed you. But let us first affirm our statements of truth together, please.
I am a child of God. I am deserving of good in my life. I am accepting my good now.
Well, let's look at a Bible story from Mark chapter 10, verses 51 through 52. You see, it was the last week in the life of Jesus. It was the week between Palm Sunday and Easter. And Jesus went around and performed a lot of miracles during that time. And he did a lot of things that were healings. And people were really impressed with him. And so one of these miracle stories is about blind Bartimaeus. Now, some of you have seen blind Bartimaeus before, but I decided to bring him back again for this message once more. And I think he tells the story best. The crowds were loud. They were crying out, Lord, Lord Jesus. So I stretched out my hand and I said, Lord, Lord Jesus. I did not know that he was standing so close. He boldly said to me, what do you want me to do for you? I said, Lord, my eyes, heal my eyes. He gently touched me on the forehead and said, go, your faith has healed you. Go? My faith has healed me? Go, my faith has healed me. I had felt the dirt below me, but never have I seen the richness of the earth and the sky, the beautiful blue sky. My faith has healed me. It has lifted me up from the perils of my blindness. I see the beauty of God in each and every face.
Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you.
So could there be a deeper message in this story? Is there more to know about this miracle? Well, we can begin to explore any Bible story by asking ourselves, what does this mean to me? And you can take that deeper for yourself and know what it does mean for you just by looking at the words and figuring them out, metaphysically or metaphysically. But today we're going to explore that question, and we're going to look at it a little deeper. So what about Bartimaeus and his blind faith? Charles Fillmore gives us this definition of blind faith from the Revealing Word. He says, blind faith is an instinctive trust in a power higher than ourselves. Because blind faith does not understand the principles of being, it is liable to discouragement and disappointment. And this is just like blind Bartimaeus sitting on the earth. He was discouraged. He was disappointed. He didn't think he could do anything or go anywhere. He was blind. But was he really blind? Or was he just in that state of mind that keeps you blind from the truth of your beingness? And then Bartimaeus is reaching out to a power higher than himself, an instinctive trust in a power higher than himself, just from hearing the energy of the crowd and hearing people crying out for that presence of the Christ within that does the healing. So maybe you could think of a time in your life when you had blind faith or no faith at all. I think we all have been through something like that. But I want to share a time with you that I had blind faith. You see, I've talked to you before about our children, and most of you that have been here for these 4 years know that we claim 5 kids. Well, after the birth of my oldest child, I couldn't have children anymore, so Warren and I decided we were going to adopt, and we met a family at church that were foster parents. And we thought, well, let's give that a go and let's see what happens. And so from that experience, we decided we would adopt our kids, and we adopted 4 children after them. What I haven't told you about is our baby Grant. It's Grace and Graham. Grant was supposed to be our 6th child. And we got him when he was 6 weeks old. And he came to us as a special little boy, and we knew he was going to be our boy. He was already put up for adoption. We knew that we were going to get to adopt him, so we named him. We sent out birth announcements. You know, we told everybody that he was going to be our baby, and it was a beautiful thing. But in the state of Kansas, if you're going through the adoption process and somebody from the birth family of the child shows up who qualifies to adopt the child, they can take the child away and give it to the family member. So we had Grant for 6 weeks, and we were joy-filled, and we loved him, and we never put him down. We just held him all the time. It was such a beautiful thing. And then we got the phone call. He was 6 weeks old, and they said, hey, there's an aunt and uncle that qualify, and they want to adopt him. And I said, no, they're not getting this child. It's my child. It's my baby. I'm not giving the baby up. I had blind faith. I said, God's not going to do this to us. He's not going to take this baby away from us. But then it took 4 weeks for Grant to be placed with his new family. And during that time, we just held him. And whenever I'd hold him, I'd just cry, But about halfway into that 4 weeks, I realized that if I believed in the one presence and one power of God, and I believed that God was good, then I was going to have to look at this differently. And I was going to have to realize that I was going to be okay and that Grant was going to be okay. And even though this was going to be the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, I had to have an instinctive trust in the power higher than myself to be able to give my baby to another mother and know that it was going to be okay. So we did. We gave the baby to the new parents, and of course they've loved him and they've cared for him. And when he was about a year old, they sent us a picture and called us, the special aunt and uncle of this little boy. And it was beautiful, and it was a great thing. But the thing about the whole experience was having that faith to know that no matter what happened, that the child was going to be okay. And as it turned out, he was. Now, some people might have said that I was a hero or that I was really brave, but I wouldn't say that I was either of those things. There's a song that Jez is going to sing for special music, and it's called If I Were Brave. And there's a line in there that says, trusting the hero in me. And that's what I had to do. I had to pull from myself that trust in God and know, beyond knowing, that everything was going to be okay. I had pain, my heart hurt, and I wasn't able to even trust the hero in me at first. I was not even able to trust God. And I don't know if any of you have ever been in that place where you didn't trust God. You thought, you turned away from everything that you know to be true and just said, there's a bunch of CRAP. Yeah, I was there. I searched deep within my soul, and I found faith, and I found the concept that God was trying to teach me and that I was to grasp from this experience. I had to be able to trust God. I had to be able to trust this new mother, or else I probably wouldn't have been here today. And I know that because it hurt so bad. But yet, when I kicked in that instinctive trust that is within us, then I knew that everything was going to be okay. It was a healing for me, and I'm sure it was a healing for everybody in our family to go through this. But that inner healing only happened because of the faith that I found deep in my soul. You see, blind Bartimaeus had trust too. He had trust. He didn't just have trust in Jesus the man. He was feeling the energy of that Christ within. He was feeling the power of the crowd that was crying out to Jesus, Lord, Lord Jesus. Well, Lord means the I am, or the Christ within. So they were crying out for that Christ within. They were feeling the energy. And don't we all do that here when we come together? We feel the energy of the Christ within. We cry out from our souls when we hug each other and feel that energy. And it's the same thing. You feel it, you know it, and you experience it. And from that healing, the eyes of my heart were opened to that truth of my being that blind Bartimaeus had when he got up and realized he was no longer blind. And just like Jesus said to blind Bartimaeus, through my experience, I could hear him saying to me, go, your faith has healed you. Now we know that it can be hard to live every moment of our lives expressing faith and trusting the truth that we know. It can be difficult sometimes because all these little things get in the way. We get lost sometimes, don't we? Yeah, but more of the lyrics say, never lose faith even when losing your way. And we don't lose faith. Faith is always there within us, so we can't lose it, but we can forget about it. We can veer off that path and feel like we don't have it. And what happens is when we lose that or feel like we've lost it, we usually have fear and doubt. They step in and cause all kinds of turmoil, don't they? Do you know that fears are sometimes identified as phobias? And did you know that there's over 500 phobias? And some of you might have a few of them. Yeah. One of them is arachnophobia, the fear of heights. Arachnophobia, the fear of spiders. Whoops, one more. There you go. The fear of spiders. Tropophobia, the fear of moving or making changes. How many people don't like to move or make a change? Yeah, there's a lot of people that don't like that. It can be hard to change how we normally do things. And here we are, the first of the year, we're supposed to be changing things, right? Changing how we think or feel or whatever. There's also atychophobia, which is the fear of failure. And we know that fear and doubt, when they step in, it causes us to be afraid. And maybe we're afraid of failing. We can just be frozen in time thinking, oh my gosh, I can't do anything because I'm so fearful of what's going to happen next. Anybody been there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But we stay put in our comfort zone, and we sometimes don't even give something new a try. Somebody might say, come with me. Let's go ice skating across the park there. And you're thinking, no, I'm not going ice skating. You know, fear stepping in, isn't it? But even just to go over there and have the experience or watch other people is changing how we think, changing our patterns in our minds. So it's important to try that. But I love this quote from Theodore Roosevelt that says, it is hard to fail, but it is worse never to have tried to succeed. Yeah. So have you ever tried to succeed at something only to fail? Because that can happen too. We think, oh yeah, I'm going to try it because I want to succeed, but yet we don't succeed. Sometimes we fail at it, right? And what do? We need to try again.
That's right.
You know, and there have been times in my life where I didn't see the failure as an opportunity to grow or gain something greater in my life. I know we all have stories where later we realized that, but at the time when it was happening, we were probably thinking, well, this S-U-C-K messes because, you know, we're not doing real good here, you know, or poor old me, we go to that syndrome, you know, where, oh, poor me, once again, I don't get what I want, don't get what I need. Yeah, anybody live there? Sometimes we do. And that's living in fear. That's living in fear and doubt. And that's when you have blind faith and you're sitting on the ground and discouraged and disappointed. And all you have to do is open your eyes. Open your eyes and experience something new. And find yourself moving away from fear. Well, Ralph Waldo Emerson says this, do the thing we fear and the death of fear is certain. True, isn't it?
It's true.
And how powerful if we could just remember that quote all the time. Because we would experience new things, we would try new things, we would even get in our cars to drive away without fear of anything happening. Those thoughts would not even enter our minds because we would be living from that place of the death of fear. So, when we do the thing that we fear, can become a catalyst for understanding faith, believe it or not. Because we can shift our consciousness and enter into a turning point where our spiritual growth can be huge. And we can begin to live along the lines of these lyrics. What would I do if I knew I could not fail? What would you do? Think about it. Think about what you would do if you could not fail. If somebody said to you, go do it, you're not going to fail. There's no way. And guess what? We have that voice in our head all the time if we listen to it. Because God is good, and God only has good in store for us. So of course we could do things and not fail, because that failure is not in the realm of God thoughts. It's not. Now I know that some of the fears that we have are a result of our childhood or our embedded theology, and I know I had a few that I had to work through, and every once in a while another one pops up, you know. But a perfect example is when I was younger and went to the Catholic Church, and I had to go to the priest into the little, let me show you, confessional, and tell the priest my sins, right? Yeah. I never did like that, you know. I went in there and I would just make up something like, oh, I lied to my parents, or I was mean to my brother. I mean, I know that priest was thinking, here she comes again, her same old lies. But he always gave me 3 Hail Marys and an act of contrition to say.
That's
so
right.
I went out there, and of course, the prayers weren't the bad part. You know, I could whip through those pretty fast. Yeah. I'm going to talk about prayer here in just a minute, too. But I never felt like I needed this confessional, nor the priest to feel the God in my life. I never felt like I needed that, even as a little girl. So it was kind of weird because I think what happens is that, you know, you end up trusting and having faith in another person rather than trusting and having faith within yourself or having faith in God. And so that, for me, was kind of like, how do I get that out of my head that somebody else has got to, you know, make it okay for me? But what I did is I looked back at the idea of prayer. You know, I thought, you know, my brothers and sisters and I used to have races who could say the Hail Marys the quickest, you know, or the Lord's Prayer or whatever. Like, how fast can you say it, you know? And we'd like time each other. It was pretty funny. But I went back to that idea of prayer because I think there is power in prayer. And we have experienced that here in this, you know, building, in this church, in this community, in this family. The power of prayer is, you know, palpable in here. You know that prayer works, and you know that it can be it. And what I came across was, when I started thinking about prayer, was being at Unity Village for 6 years was such a blessing. And when you walk on that campus, one day Charles Fillmore is on the recording at 11 o'clock, all through the campus saying the Lord's Prayer. And the next day is Myrtle Fillmore saying the prayer of faith. And everybody got their little card of the prayer of faith, right? And this is they have her voice recorded, and they play it in there, and it never failed. Anytime I was on that campus at 11 o'clock, when the prayer came on, I would stop, and I would close my eyes, and I would listen. And it always got me back to where I needed to be. It was so powerful. I mean, it just brought me around to that place where I felt centered and at peace again. And then I could open my eyes, and at the same time I was opening my heart. So I thought it was a perfect prayer to share with you. It's written by Hannah Moore Cohouse. And you can see that the very first line of this prayer says, what? God is my help in every need. Is it supposed to say help in every need? Yes, it is. I did a typo, sorry. Because health is down lower. So everybody pencil in health, change it to help. God is my help in every need. That's what I do when I just type them instead of looking them up in the book. So anyway, God is my help in every need. That's an important line. You could stop with that line. Because if we think about the fact that God is our help in every need, then we know that we can just turn to that and go forward. But the thing is that when you go on with this prayer, you can see that it touches on many things. It touches on health, it touches on strength, it touches on love, it touches on all the aspects that we encounter during the day. So it can realign us with the idea of pure faith, that knowing that we know, like Reverend Warren was talking about in meditation, realigning with that knowing that we know that God is with us and that we have an unlimited abundance of faith. So what I'd like for you to do over this next couple of weeks is say this prayer every day, and then you might even want to journal about it, what's going on, when this happens, or take it with you and say it whenever you're stressed out or whatever. But then after a couple of weeks or 3 or 4 weeks, whatever, give this to somebody else. Pass it on to somebody else. Somebody you see stressed, or somebody that you just know could use that prayer. And give them a copy of it. If you want extra copies, I'm sure we've got them back there. You can get on your way out. But it's a powerful thing to share. It's a powerful thing to continue to pass forward to other people. And you might even want to share later what results you had from them. So what about prayer and faith? You know, how do they totally relate? And how do we automatically think? What do we automatically think about answered prayer? Because, you know, we all pray, but sometimes we don't always get the answers that we want, right? And then we go back to that disappointment and discouragement of blind Bartimaeus, thinking, you know, poor old me again. But we know that our prayers are answered. They might not always be answered by the formula we want or the result that we want, but we know that our prayers are answered. And it does take faith to know that our prayers are going to be answered. And we don't know when that's going to come forth. I mean, Rodney, the last time he was here, 2 weeks ago, was that it?
Yes.
Yeah, he shared during the offertory time about his prosperity experience. And, I mean, he didn't know. He had a big medical bill. He didn't know how he was going to pay it. And one thing after the other came, and he didn't end up having to pay anything hardly, did you? Or maybe not anything.
That's right.
But I'm just saying, you have to have faith in order to know that everything's going to be okay. That you can let go and you can let God and allow the good to come forth. Because we know that it's always going to be good. Well, Martha Smock, a Unity minister, wrote Meet It with Faith. And whoops, there's Unity Village. Isn't that a beautiful picture? That's the fountains through the middle there. Right there, and there's the tower. And this is actually the Bridge of Faith. So that's why I put it up there. Martha Smock in Meet It with Faith says, expecting and waiting, both forms of faith. It takes faith to expect answers to prayer. It takes faith to wait for the results that we have faith to believe are forthcoming. You like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. It's our human self that expects and waits. But it's our spiritual self that realizes that the results are already coming forth. That whatever it is that we desire is going to come forth. And it does take faith. And it doesn't take that much faith, just that little seed. Because once we realize that faith is one of the 12 powers given to us by God, our ultimate source and power of abundance is flowing through us, then we know that little bit of faith is all we need to be able to know that the desired outcome is going to be for our highest good. Might not always be the one you want, but it will be for the highest good. So, how do we know our prayers will be answered? Because of that. Because of stepping out in faith and knowing, and having that instinctive trust within ourselves. Can't you feel that instinctive trust within you? I mean, I think most of us will say yes to that, won't you? So can you feel the instinctive trust within you?
Yes.
Yes.
There you go. You know I'm going to make you say it until you say it louder. You know, remember that Charles Fillmore described that as that little tiny seed of faith. And we might even measure our faith by that mustard seed. And the question becomes then, are we willing to plant that seed and allow it to grow in our lives? Here are the seeds of a mustard plant. Those little tiny seeds up there, just like I showed you in the tape. But here's what produces from those seeds. It's like a mega bush of vininess going out. One little seed can produce a plethora of plants out there. That's why the mustard seed is used for that idea of faith, because once we realize it and come to terms with the idea that we always have faith, then guess what? It's going to express out in our lives in that abundance, just like the mustard seed. So my question becomes, how do you measure faith? Bartimaeus received his sight through faith. Can we receive our sight in a new direction by having faith? And we can explore for ourselves through prayer how faith can express in our lives. We can lift ourselves up from the perils of our blindness and express faith by asking the question, what would I do if I knew I could not fail? Remember that, because you're not going to fail. And if you fail, guess what? Something better's coming along. It really is. And I received my message that Grant was going to be okay because of the very substance of what I believe in is faith in God. And through God, all is possible. I invite you to open the eyes of your heart. Go, your faith has healed you. Thank you for being here today.